So how did you get into property?
So a really good friend of mine who I actually met playing golf, a guy called Dale Smith, who set up a company called Host and Stay that manages holiday lets, and they're based out of North Yorkshire, Saltburn. He's in a fantastic job. He's got a brilliant business there. He'd actually be a fantastic podcast guest for you, by the way. Like, really interesting guy. And I mean, he just doesn't sleep at all, you know. And he's grown this business fantastically well into a great business over the last 4 or 5 years. And he decided he wanted a franchise in about 3 years ago. And another friend of mine, a chap called Andrew Biggs, he was kind of looking for something new to go with. So I was like, come on, I'll buy the franchise, you run it, and away we go. And it grew really nicely over, 2 years through COVID. Like we started that business in January 2020. I mean, it was the worst timing for starting a holiday let management business I think you could ever see. But Andrew, being a fantastically driven human being that he is, he managed to get that to, I think it was like 140 properties or something like that we were looking after. We've actually just sold it all about 2 weeks ago. So we moved out.
So now you've got the 30 million quid in the bank. You can start.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that kind of journey into the holiday let management thing started up conversations about holiday lets and service accommodation, and then it was kind of like a natural kind of progression into the property management thing ourselves. And I'm still kind of fledgling in that really. But if I had a bit more time on my hands and I didn't have businesses to run, I might go and spend a little bit more time in it. But
I was going to say, what kind of similarities have you found between the two? You said before about how almost your different business interests, there's still a lot of things that kind of tie them together.
Yeah, my interest is the business side of things. Like, I understand a lot about web design development. I understand a lot about project management. And I understand a lot about the digital marketing, but I've got a strategy manager here who knows a damn sight more than I do, and I've got an operations manager here that knows a damn sight more about project management than I do. I've got developers that can actually develop websites. I mean, I could never do that. So for me, it was always the business side of things that I found really fascinating. And the great thing about that is, and that's very transferable skills, the management stuff, the leadership stuff, the organizational stuff, the accountability things, KPIs, like all of that kind of stuff, all is very transferable. And the other real, great learning thing for me is, WD's grown steadily, slowly, over time, incrementally. I've learned along with it. Sometimes I've been ahead of it, sometimes I've been behind it, but essentially we've kind of come to the same stage. So I come in the office here and everything's really rosy. Everyone's just really happy and taking the mick out of each other, and really nice place to be. Sometimes I'll go over to Properties Unique and Host and Stay, and it would be a bit more chaotic and a bit busy. So you don't actually realise the things that you're doing well when there's not a problem. It's like if you haven't got a sore knee, you don't think about your knee starts hurting, you start thinking about it. So you don't see the things that you do well until they're not going well. And now, Properties Unique's a lot neater and tidier. We've got, everything kind of squared away. What's really interesting, there's some things over there that's actually better than in white digital now. And you're starting to see how it can move back the other way as well. So it's just a continual learning thing where you just nicking little ideas from over there and trying it in there, basically. So it's been a really good learning curve for me to have those two different, and one's like, this is very B2B. It's very much how well do you know people, what's your brand, how strong's your brand, how well networked are you, that sort of thing. Whereas Properties Unique, it does have the B2B element in the relationship with the owners, but it also has the B2C element where you're trying to find guests and so on and so forth. So it's quite interesting to have that B2C marketing game as well, which is, I think, a little bit of an easier game to play than the B2B marketing game as well.
Almost from a business strategy point of view, the fact that you've diversified your risk into different sectors, different audiences, different B2B, it makes perfect sense. And especially if you can kind of make it work and you enjoy it.